Hello everyone, and welcome to day 3 of the 2020 Global MoodleMoot. You're in the technology room, and today the first session we've got is with Sonder Bangma, who's from Moodle HQ, and he's going to highlight the most important changes brought about by the new release of Moodle 3.9. It'll also give us a glimpse into the future as we see what Moodle 4.0 is anticipated to deliver. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the forum and try to leave them as early as you can so that we can get through as many as we can. So over to you, Sonder.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chris, and I can compliment you on a very professional introduction there. Yeah, welcome everybody to the third day of the Moot. I hope you've all been enjoying it so far. I certainly am, and it's been a fantastic Moot up to now, and I look forward to the following days. Seen a lot of great presentations, and there'll be a lot more to come. And I just want to say a big thanks as well to the events team for organizing this online Moot. It's all running very smoothly, and it's exciting to be able to bring everybody from the globe together online, and ultimately that's what we try to do at Moodle, of course. So I'll be talking about Moodle 3.9 and some of the new things that we brought in this release. I won't cover everything because there's just way too much. Before we do that, I just wanted to take a little bit of a step back and think about what it is that we are doing here all together. Moodle HQ releasing a new version, but it's not just Moodle HQ, it's us together with the community. It's everybody here, it's everybody who's listening, and just checking the YouTube channel. We have about 100 people listening at the moment, and it's slowly increasing. And all of you are here to learn about Moodle and talk about Moodle and show us all the amazing things that you do with Moodle. So I think, before I dive into 3.9, it's just worthwhile to reflect on that a little bit and just acknowledge that all of us together are doing this amazing thing, and we really have an impact on the world. Moodle is the world's most popular LMS. And as Martin highlighted in his slide, there's about over 60% of higher education around the world is using the Moodle LMS. So that's really impressive. And on the world map we have here, you can see that pretty much every country around the world is using Moodle. And there's some really cool stats that we collect. So if you haven't looked at this site before, please have a look at stats.moodle.org. Sites, when they install their Moodle, they can register with us. Now, not everybody does, so the stats we have here is only a small portion of all the sites around the world. But we have at least 150,000 registered sites. And on those sites, we have over 26 million different courses with more than 200 million enrolled users. So these are some phenomenal statistics. And when you then look at enrollments, over 1 billion students have enrolled in courses, and the last one is really mind-boggling. And we've got Tim Hunt in the room here, who is one of the main maintainers of Moodle Quiz. But more than 2.6 billion quiz questions have been created on our registered sites. So that is really phenomenal when you think about it. And that's something that we are all doing together. So I want to say a big thank you to everybody in the community for helping us make this project a success. Now, it's not just what's in the LMS that's available for everybody, but you also help us build other things on top of the LMS. Now, Moodle is very customizable and very easily extensible. So there's plugins that can be developed. And if you look at the Moodle plugin database, you can see over 1,600 plugins that have been developed over the years by the community, and they are updated every release of Moodle to make sure that they work with the new version. So that's a really amazing achievement by everybody. Then let's look at Moodle 3.9 and some of the things we've done within that. A big thank you to the LMS team who've done a massive push and released probably the biggest version of Moodle since I've been at Moodle. And there's a lot of community contributions in here as well, and really sort of emphasizing the fact that this is a community project that we're driving all together. I want to talk a little bit about some of the bigger changes and the bigger highlights for this release. So I want to talk about some features that more impact course creation and management. So we've made some improvements to the activity chooser, really exciting, which has been getting some good reviews so far. We've further expanded on our H5P integration. That was a piece of work we started with Moodle 3.8, and we've been continuing to work on for Moodle 3.9, and it's we've made some really big steps there. We've improved the management of course participants with the support of a project proposed and funded by the Moodle User Association, as well as made it easier to copy courses, also a Moodle User Association project. Some of the other bigger things that we worked on were around integration with other platforms and tools. For example, MoodleNets. Now, you've heard Martin talk a little bit about MoodleNets, and a bit later towards the end, I hope to do a quick demo where I can quickly show you how that integration works. It's an evolving platform, so there's still work being done on it, but I really hope that everybody can keep an eye on that and start thinking about what it can mean for them, and start thinking about what sort of content they would like to see on MoodleNet, and also help contribute to putting content on there, because we need everybody to collaborate on that platform to make it a success. Another good project that we did was improving the integration of Safe Exam Browser. I'll talk a little bit more about it later as well, but it allows you to run Moodle quizzes in a secure environment. Some other highlights, we've improved our compliance with open badges, upgraded that to version 2.1. We did a big focus on accessibility improvements, really important topic for us. And some improvements around license management in your Moodle site. Some other things we put in there are really around, I guess, the bigger Moodle project and the support also that we hope to get back from the community. And the first one is we've introduced some links in Moodle that can be enabled or disabled by the admin. But it's a place where if they are enabled and a user clicks on that, they'll be taken to a Moodle survey site, which is something that we're running, and from time to time we'll update these surveys and ask different questions. It's another opportunity for us to be in touch with end users and collect feedback on what we're doing, as well as measuring things like NPS score. And it's a mechanism for us to track how we're going and how we can improve. So if you do see that feedback link, I really hope that you click on it and let us know what you think. Good or bad, we just would like to hear from you so that we can improve. Also built in a little donation link for when the admin installs the platform, just that so they can consider if they haven't contributed back to the platform just yet. It's another way of doing that to support the bigger Moodle project. It's an open source project, and it relies on your contributions in many different ways. Now, there's much more, but those are sort of the topics that I want to go through today. All right, first let's have a look at the activity chooser. So you can see it here in this screenshot. It looks quite different from what it did before. We've introduced a nice grid layout and given it more space, so you see larger icons. We've added some features like searching, starring or favoriting, as well as an option to recommend things. So the institution, if they've got preferred activities or resources that they want to use, they can recommend them for their educators. We focused a lot on accessibility. So the accessibility of the activity chooser has been improved. And as well as down below here, you can see there's an outward link towards MoodleNets, and I'll talk a bit more about that later. So let's look at these things in a bit more detail. The first one is starring. So on the previous slide, you saw all of the activities and resources that we have in Moodle when you first install it. And if there's particular activities or resources that you as an educator prefer to use, then you can start them. So you click the little star, and then the activity chooser will create this start little tab, and all the activities that you've started will show up there. So when you're building your courses and you've got a few activities that you use pretty much all of the time, you can click on those and have them readily available, and you don't have to search the big list of activities and resources that we have. So it's making it a little bit more convenient to find them. Also, when you click on the, let me just go back one slide. When you click on the little eye here, it shows up a separate pane where you've got all the information that describes what you can do with that particular activity or resource. And this text is also searched when you use the search functionality in the activity chooser. So it helps you pick up those activities and resources that might be suitable for what you're looking for. Now, we've introduced some additional administrator settings as well. So under the Courses tab inside Administration, there's a new section for Activity Chooser. And within that, the first link there is for Activity Chooser settings. Now, that will take you to an admin page where you can determine which tabs are displayed at the top of the Activity Chooser. So in this case, you're seeing 3 tabs here: the Start tab, the All tab, which will have all the activities and resources, as well as the Recommended tab, where the administrator can recommend activities. There's different ways of displaying this. You can also display, for example, 5 tabs, and then you get 2 additional tabs that separate out the activities and the resources. So different options depending on what you prefer. Now, the second set of administrator options we have here is around the recommended activities. So when you click on that as an administrator, you're taken to this page. You only see a subset here, but it allows you to select which activities you want to show up in the recommended tab for your educators. So when they're building courses, they can have a quick look at what is it that my institution recommends. And then you can sort of focus their attention on those activities that you deem most valuable for your students. Now, the Activity Chooser came with, well, it was part of the Activity Chooser project. It's actually slightly sitting outside of the Activity Chooser, but it's related to course editing. And that's the Turn Editing button on. So previously, this was hidden in the cog menu. I would almost say this is backed by popular demand. We had a lot of feedback from people that when that button was added to the cog, that they preferred it outside of that. So we've put that outside on the course page, so it's really easy for your educators to figure out how to start editing their courses. Then moving on to the H5P integration. So as I mentioned before, we did a lot of work for H5P in the Moodle 3.8 release. There we introduced the H5P player in Moodle. We introduced a button in the Atto editor, so that anywhere in Moodle where you use the Atto editor, you can also upload H5P packages and use H5P. So a very powerful feature. And we also built a H5P filter. So if you paste a link to a H5P package from a trusted URL, if you link that anywhere on the site, then Moodle's filter will recognize that and automatically display the H5P content. But there's more things that we wanted to do. So that's what we did for Moodle 3.9. So this is really phase 2. And now we have added several additional abilities that previously you still needed the external plugin for. That's no longer required. You can now use all of this from Moodle out of the box. And that includes things like creating new H5P content inside Moodle. And to do that, you go to the Content Bank, which is a new concept that I'll talk a little bit more about. But in the Content Bank, you can create and edit H5P content. And then once you've done that and you're in a course and you want to add H5P in your course, you can now do that as a proper Moodle activity, which means that the results from the H5P activity will flow into the gradebook, and you can use things like activity completion and other tracking tools that you are familiar with using for the other Moodle activities. So it's a proper, fully integrated Moodle activity now. And of course, alongside of that are a number of additional admin settings. So let's step through some of these things. So what you see here is the H5P Content Bank. So I'm logged in as Mr. Wilson in a course. And in the navigation drawer, we have the Content Bank link here. So when you click on that, you are taken to this page. And you see a file area with any sort of existing H5P packages that you've already created or uploaded. They can be found here. There's different views that you can use, either a grid view like you see here or a list view. You can upload new H5P content, and you can also add and create new content. Now, when you click on any of these packages, you'll go into the editing mode. And let me just move on to the next slide. So you see that here. So also in the content bank, you do the creation, you do the editing of new packages or existing packages. If you're the owner of that package, you can edit them. And then you can save it and you can watch the result of that within the content bank. And if you're happy with it, you can use it in your courses. Now, previously, this edit page was contained within the Moodle edit activity page, and it was really quite a small section within that page next to all of the other Moodle settings. So we've moved that out into the content bank to give you a dedicated page where you can edit your H5P content, and you don't have to worry at that point in time about the other Moodle settings. You can just focus purely on that and do it on a larger screen. Now, I mentioned you can add H5P as a proper Moodle activity. So what does that look like? Well, here's your typical Moodle add an activity and edit screen. So you can give it a name, a description, and then you've got an area here where you can either upload a H5P package that you found somewhere or you've got on your computer. You can also click on the file link here and go to Moodle's content bank and select any files that you've created there. Or if you didn't have anything ready, there's a little link down here that actually prompts you to go to the content bank, and you can go there and create new things and then get back to this activity to upload it. I mentioned there's a few new administrator settings. So there's a new section in the site administration tree with various H5P settings. I've put some little snapshots here. So the first one is a H5P overview page where you can see what parts of the H5P integration are enabled. The H5P button in the Atto editor, the H5P filter to automatically translate H5P URLs and display them. And whether the scheduled task is enabled. So the scheduled task allows you to connect to the H5P site and download any new libraries that have been made available to make sure that your libraries are always up to date. You can manage H5P content types. So as an administrator, you can decide which H5P content types are installed on your site, and you can manually install new ones or you can remove them. And this page allows you to do that, as well as provides an overview of what's currently running. And the last page, the H5P settings page, allows you to select between the different H5P frameworks that exist. So H5P comes out with new versions, and these can run in parallel on a Moodle site to make sure that any old content created with previous frameworks can still run without any issues. And as an administrator, you can decide which frameworks are running at the moment. Okay, then moving on to the next project, and this is the filter on the course participants page. So this was a project proposed and funded by the Moodle User Association, and then implemented and developed by Moodle HQ. And what it offers is more powerful filtering options on the course participants page, and ultimately that allows you to do more targeted filter queries and more easily manage the course participants. So previously there was just a single keyword filter that you could use to filter the course participants, but now you can create a filter query that consists of multiple conditions. So So it's much more powerful, and you can combine these conditions with logical operators like and or. So here's an example where we're looking for course participants that match any of the groups, North Pole or South Pole, and that also match the keyword Vasquez, so somewhere in their name or profile they've got Vasquez, and that have been inactive for more than 4 days. So you can sort of really narrow down on the types of course participants that you want to look for. In this case, 2 of them showed up, and then you can do all of the normal things that you would do with them on the course participants page, send them a message, look at their enrollments, etc., etc. So it's providing you more powerful capabilities really to manage your course participants. So hopefully this is a really useful tool for our educators out there. The other project that we did together with the Moodle Users Association, so they proposed and funded this project, is to make it easier to copy courses. Now we had a little help with this project, so Moodle partner Catalyst implemented this for us, and then we integrated the results of their work. But this really allows you to more easily copy your course. Previously, if you wanted to copy your course, you had to go through a backup procedure, and there's several steps involved in that, and then start the restore, and there's several steps involved with that as well. So with the copy course function, you can all do it from a single click, copy course, and then there's a single screen where you set some options, and away you go, and the course is copied. So administrators or managers by default can access these options. You can also configure your educators to have access to this functionality. If that's how you operate on your Moodle site, you just need to assign them the relevant capabilities. And then they'll see this copy course option in the cog on the course page. There's another place where this functionality is linked in as well, and that's on the course and category management place. So this is perhaps more the place for site administrators would be using it. But when you look at the courses that are available over here, you see that each of them has this little copy icon, and that taps into the same functionality. So you click on that and you get a single screen to copy your courses. I'll see that I've got some time in the demo a little bit later, but I can show you that screen as well. I don't have a screenshot of it right now. But again, it's another feature that's aiming to help make course lifecycle management a bit easier for administrators, managers, and teachers. Okay, now let's move on to MoodleNets. Now, you've all heard about MoodleNet. We've been speaking about it at several moots over the last few years. Martin mentioned it in his keynote speech. In brief, the summary of what MoodleNet is, it's a social network. It's a federated social network for educators where we want it to be a place where they come online and they share the resources that they use, the open educational resources that they use in their classes and that they think are really valuable. We would love them to share them on this platform and make it known to other people what great resources are out there, so that when you, as a teacher, needing to find some new materials for your course, you can have a look at MoodleNet and see what other educators have shared and commented on as useful resources. And then if you like them, you can bring them into your Moodle course. So how do you do that? Well, with the integration we've built, once that's enabled and you go to the activity chooser, you see a little snippet of the activity chooser here. There's a link down the bottom there where you can browse for content on MoodleNet. So when you click on that link, you'll get shown a page where you can select which MoodleNet instance you want to go to, and I'll show you that later when I do the demo. But once you're on the MoodleNet instance, you can search for resources, and when you've found them, you can click on a little link with 3 dots, and then you get a couple of options. One of them is to send that resource to Moodle, and when you click on that, you'll get taken back to your Moodle site, and you get to import that content into your course. So that's how that works, and yeah, we really hope to see that project grow and evolve with the time. Safe Exam Browser is another project that we work on, and again, this was a collaborative project. In this case, We work together with the Save Exam Browser Consortium and 8 universities that funded this project because they want to use Save Exam Browser together with Moodle. And we also, again, teamed up with Moodle Partner Catalyst who helped us implement this. They had a lot of experience with Save Exam Browser and were a great partner to help out with this piece of work. And it sort of shows that when we all work together, Moodle HQ, the community, Moodle partners, we can achieve a lot and make big changes for the platform. So it's a great example of a collaborative project. Save Exam Browser allows you to run Moodle quizzes in a secure and locked down environment. So if you're doing formal assessments, high stakes assessments with Moodle quizzes in your institute, Save Exam Browser is a great way to go. It allows you to lock down the workstation and control what other programs and applications the students have access to, whether they can reach out on the internet and do searching or whether they can't, whether they can use the calculator or not. So you can create an environment specific to the wishes and demands for that particular examination. And some of the benefits, of course, are that you save paper, you save time, but most importantly, it allows you to create exams that are more competence-oriented, and you can target that specifically within Moodle in the setup that you use. Now, there's a number of settings, and I'll sort of only highlight the top-level ones at the moment, but for the administrator, there's additional settings. Under quiz, you can create Save Exam Browser templates, and you can set up different types of access rules. But once this is set up by the administrator as a teacher, you then have additional options when you create a quiz. And there's a new area there for Save Exam Browser, and you can decide whether or not you want this quiz to be run inside Save Exam Browser. And then you can either configure it manually or use existing templates. There's a variety of ways of configuring this, but some powerful tools there for doing online assessments, which is, of course, very relevant at this point in time. There's also some additions to the functionality to manage licenses in your Moodle site. So previously, there were a number of existing licenses, and you could change order of them and the like. But there's now some additional options to create new licenses, if there's additional licenses that you're using on your Moodle site, as well as edit them and delete them. And a new setting for administrators to determine whether educators, when they're uploading content onto this site, then they use the file picker. They can choose which license they use, and either the default site license is selected or the license that they last used was selected. So it can save a little bit of time for your teachers also when they upload these things. But some good tools to give you some more powerful license managing options on your Moodle site. Then accessibility. We've done a lot of work on accessibility, very important topic, of course. Moodle is a global platform. Not only is it worldwide, we want everybody to be able to use Moodle. So we want to make it inclusive and accessible for all. We've got Jun from the Moodle LMS team talking a little bit later in a bit more detail about what changes we made in terms of accessibility and what tools we use. So in particular for developers, if you're interested in that, it's a great topic. Doing accessible development is really important. And I think later today also we've got Gavin Hendrick talking a bit more about accessibility and the work that he's doing there in that area. But what did we do for this release? Just at a high level, we performed an external audit. We had some external auditors testing the platform against WCAG 2.1. We picked 20 key pages of Moodle for the audit. Moodle's a very large platform, so we select a representative sample of pages, but really focused on those key pages that people use the most, like the dashboard, the course page, forum, quiz, gradebook, and calendar. And the auditors tested Moodle with automated tools, some of the tools that we use internally as well, some different tools too. And also really importantly, they did user journey testing. So they had, I can't remember the exact number, but somewhere between 5 and 10 testers. Testers also with different types of disabilities who were using different types of tools to access Moodle. Really, scrutinizing the accessibility of the platform. And we got some really valuable feedback out of that. And we took that on board as we started working on 3.9 and made a lot of improvements to our accessibility, working towards AA conformance. So that's, of course, an ongoing project, but we made some really good steps forward. Now, some of the fixes were specific to these pages, but other fixes were more broadly applicable to the entire platform. So that's what we did. Where possible, we applied the fixes across all of Moodle. Some little examples of what we worked on, the focus on selected links, as well as with keyboard navigation, making that more obvious, improving the view on smaller screens. That was quite a tricky challenge for Moodle, but we made some great improvements there. Improvements to the Atto editor. And some of the things I think there will be highlighted by Gavin Hendrick from Field's education labs as well, because they helped contribute some of those improvements, but that makes it slightly easier to create accessible content in Moodle, as well as other general usability things. If you're on a long course page and you're scrolling all the way down to the bottom, you want to quickly get back to the top. So we added things like a go to top arrow on the page. But June later, we'll be talking a little bit more about this. Then the other things I mentioned at the beginning, we added something around creating more, I guess, broader support within the community and tools for us to collect some feedback from end users. Now, in terms of support, we are an open source project, and we do rely on everybody's support in terms of contributions, mainly in code, but there's other ways to contribute as well. And this is an avenue for administrators to consider that. So once they install and upgrade, we actually show a little banner on the administrator notification page that reminds them that they can contribute to the Moodle platform. But more importantly, we all want to hear from you as to what you think is working in the platform and what you think is not working so well. So we introduced some features within Moodle to, from time to time, ask for end users' feedback. Now, these are all settings that can be completely configured by the administrator, that can be disabled if you prefer. But if you do leave them enabled, then sometimes, and you can configure the setting and the frequency around this, a little reminder will pop up to ask users to give feedback about the software, and they'll be taken to a Moodle survey site where they're asked a few questions, and then we will digest and collate that information and use that as input as we evolve and develop the product. I do hope that if you do see that link, that you click on it and give us your feedback. We'd love to hear from you. Then looking a little bit ahead, Moodle version 4. So that's scheduled for release in November 2021. So we're taking a bit longer for that because we want to focus on some bigger changes. I think a lot of the feedback has been pretty clear that there's room for improvement in terms of overall user experience and usability. So we want to work on that, and we're going to take a little bit longer to do that. There's some high-level areas that we've identified that we want to work on around navigation and workflow, some task management, essentially making it easier for students to see the workload that's ahead of them. We saw some presentations about this actually earlier on Monday, a group that has done a plugin called Assessment Map, I think it was I believe it was called, showing some bubble charts in terms of workload that's ahead for student. That was a really good idea. So creative thinking like that. And we want to be able to address some of the main pain points in the platform. So we're still in the phase where we're really narrowing down on what that is. And we have just recruited a new UX lead, Candice Deemer, who's helping us organize our thoughts and doing a lot of research at the moment. So there's a new page on moodle.org, moodle.org/UX, and you can go there and read up about what it is that we're currently doing. There's some initial survey results. It also links to some UX workshops that we've been running. I'm not sure if there's still places available, but have a look if you're interested, because if there are still places available, we'd love to get more of your input. So we're sort of shaping the UX roadmap there. And that's going to, as I mentioned, we're going to take a little bit longer. So we're going to take roughly 18 months, November 2021. And throughout that time, the HQ developers will be mainly focused on those bigger UX improvements. Now, when we first announced this, there were a number of questions from the community. What about our contributions during that time? And we've worked on improvements that are important for us to help us and our projects further, and we'd really love to see them in the Moodle platform before November 2021. So, we've spent some time thinking about the best way to solve this, and we've decided that we will come out with releases in between Moodle 3.9 and version 4. And they'll be released at the normal 6-monthly timeframes. So in November 2020, we will release Moodle 3.10, and in May 2021, we will also release Moodle 3.11. Now, these will be mainly focused on community contributions, community developers, partner developers. As I mentioned, the HQ developers will be mainly focused on UX improvements. There might be some small projects that we introduce sooner, but the main attention will be on the big changes for version 4. But we'll try and include as many community contributions as we can. Okay. So now, how much time have I still got? 25 minutes. Okay, that's plenty of time for me still to do a demo. So let me share my screen. And let me go here. Okay. So yes, my screen is being shared. Great. So we're on the demo site here, and we will be logging in as, try that again. There we go, Mr. Wilson. Now, Mr. Wilson is a teacher, and I just wanted to show you some of the changes we made around the activity chooser as well as H5P. Show you that live because that's much more exciting than just looking at some screenshots. So at the moment, we're on the course page, and the first thing I guess we notice as a teacher, we're quite excited because the turn editing button is easily accessible for us, and I no longer need to go into the cog menu. So I click on that, turn editing on, and here we are. We've got our editing settings. So let's look at the new activity chooser. Let's say I want to add an activity or a resource here, and we see our new activity chooser with the nice grid layout and the different types of activities, larger icons. We can click on the information link. Let's look at what's described for forum. So we see a nice overview of what's described for forum. We can do a search, and as I mentioned, the search also searches all of the text, the help text. So if I search for package, what do we find? H5P, IMS content packages, as well as SCORM packages. So it's searching everything. I can go in and I can star. I'm a teacher, and what are my favorite activities? I like to use assignment. I like to use quiz, external tools for LTI, and workshop, for example. So as I did that and I started these different activities and resources, a new tab showed up called Start. So when I click on that, I see all my favorite activities. And the next time I go in and want to add something, by default, I get taken to my Start tab with all my favorite activities. The other thing that I mentioned was the recommended tab. So this is where the site administrator can go in and say, okay, we really recommend that our educators try and use assignment and database and forum, just as an example. So they can select these activities to be shown in the recommended tab, so that if a teacher is going in and they're thinking, oh, well, what's recommended for me? What does the institution like for me to use, then they can go in here and look at that. At the moment, we're seeing 3 tabs: Store, Start, All, and Recommended. But you can configure this differently. As I mentioned, you can also show the activities and the resources each in their separate tabs. Now, down the bottom, we have got the link to browse for content on MoodleNet, and I'll show you that a little bit later. First, I think let's go and have a look at some of the H5P functionality. So I'm in my course here, climate change, very important topic. And I want to think about using H5P. Now, I'm going to go to my content bank here in the navigation drawer. So I'm in the content bank right here. And we see a grid with icons for the H5P packages that are already existing in the content bank at this course level. They all show their nice H5P icon, so it's looking really good. And here I can do a variety of things. I can switch my view. I can look at it in a list view, which means I can easily sort things. I can look at last modified dates. But I like to see the pretty picture, so let's switch back to this view. I can also upload H5P content, H5P packages. So if I already have some packages from elsewhere, I might have got them saved on my computer, I can actually upload them here and save them in the content bank. So once you do that, they'll show up in here on this page. You can search your H5P packages. Let's search for climate. So you've got 2 packages related to climate. And when you click on any of these existing packages, you actually are shown a little preview. So within the content bank, you can preview your H5P packages. You can try them out. So let's see what happens. Which of the following contribute to climate change? Well, let's look at these 3. 3 out of 3 I had right. Okay, so producing cement also contributes to climate change. Let's say I want to edit this package, so you can click on the edit button, and here we then see the H5P editor. Now, as I mentioned previously, this entire massive form was also included on the Moodle activity edit page, and that made it quite a big and complicated form. So we've separated that out nicely in the content bank, and you've got a bigger space to edit. Let's say we're happy with this, so we can close it. The other thing you can do, of course, is create new H5P content. So we click on the Add button, and then you get to select from a large list of H5P content types that are installed on this site. And you can click on one, you're taken to the edit page, complete all of the entries, and then, of course, it'll show up in the content bank. So let's say we're happy with one of the packages that we've created. We go back to the climate change course, and I would really like to add that here in this section, controversy over climate change. So let me add a H5P package here. I'll select the H5P activity, and we can, let's call it H5P demo, add a description here. And then here we can either upload a package that we have already on the computer, but we can also click the files link. So we go to the file picker, we can select the content bank, and then we see the packages here that we earlier looked at. So I want to include causes of climate change. I can select my license, which is what we talked about before, and just upload this file. So now it's added as a Moodle activity. It's within the activity edit page, and you can set your various H5P options, which we already had in 3.8. But more importantly now, we can also set up grading, which means that any results from this activity will flow into the gradebook. And you can also look at other options, such as activity completion, and make that all part of your Moodle course. Let's just leave it as it is and save and return. So we're back on the course page. And here we have our H5P activity added as a proper Moodle activity on our course page. So that's really nice. Now, a lot of things in this release are tied back to the activity chooser. And let's have a look at MoodleNet. So I open the activity chooser and I'm looking for content that I want to use in my course. So maybe there's something cool on MoodleNet, and I click on that link and it takes me to the next page. Now, here you can choose one of two things. The first one is to go to MoodleNet Central. And MoodleNet Central is the MoodleNet instance hosted and run by Moodle HQ. Ultimately, though, as MoodleNet will grow and evolve, we've built it as a federated platform. So other people can run their own instances, and you, if you want to, can run your own instance as well. And you might create an account on that particular local instance. Now, that can all be configured, and once you've got that set up, you can fill in your account details here, and then you'll be taken to your specific MoodleNet instance. In this case, though, I'm going to go to MoodleNet Central and have a look there. Now, as you can see up the top here, there's a little message there. This site is currently in active development. So a little notice that things are still changing, things are still evolving. But I do want to show you this demo. And you can either log in if you've set it up, you've got an account there. But what I'm going to do right now is actually just browse this instance. So I'm browsing it as a guest. And here I am on MoodleNet. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail at the moment, but we've got communities up here. People talking about similar things. We've got featured collections down here. There's one about MoodleMoot, which is really interesting. And I'm just going to do a search for MoodleMoot and see what pops up. Okay, so right at the top here, we've got a reference to the MoodleMoot Global Online Conference. Wow, I know this is an amazing conference, and I want all my students to have a look at this because there's amazing content there. So what you can do is you can click on the three dots, and then you get an option to send something to Moodle. Now, it so happens that I've been here before, so the address of my site is already filled in and completed. So I want to send this to my Moodle site, so I click send, and then I land on my Moodle site and the import process starts. So this is the MoodleNet integration for the LMS platform in action. Here I'm already logged into this site, so it knows where I came from. So it's taking me to the right place. And it's just giving me a little notice here to let me know that, hey, you're about to import something from MoodleNet into your course. Just to let you know this is happening and make sure that this is your action. So you can confirm that. And then you've got an option of how you want to display the content that you're importing. Now, we try and be clever. In this case, it's a URL, a link to a website. So we've already noticed that, and we've sort of pre-selected that we want to create a URL resource. So we click on that, we continue, and then we're back onto our course page where we started from. And we can see here underneath the H5P demo, we now have the URL resource imported from MoodleNet. So this is how the process works and how the interaction and the link between Sorry, someone was playing with my microphone. Okay, I have got 2 minutes left. Okay, quickly, I will show one more thing. Let's go to the participants page and look at our new filter. So we can use multiple conditions here. So for example, let's look at filtering course participants from a particular group. Let's look at the South Pole group. And we also want to make sure that we only find people with the role student. And we apply those filters. and it narrows down the selection based on those two criteria. So it's a nice way to easily narrow down the number of course participants, and then you can do all your usual things. You can send them a message, or you can go towards enrollment. So it's a nice, powerful feature that we've added there. I might also quickly be able to still show you the copy course option. So in this case, Mr. Wilson, the teacher, has been given the capabilities to also copy courses. So when he goes inside the core game, clicks the copy course option, you get presented with a single screen where you can give the course a new name, select some options around start dates and end dates and various other things, and which course category the course should go into. And then with a single click, you can copy your course and then in the meantime continue working, because this will all happen behind the scenes, and you'll get a notification once your course is ready. Now, I think that pretty much concludes the time there for the presentation and demo. So let me just switch back, and then we might still have some time for if there are any.
Sauna, that was excellent, in fact, and there's been a lot of interest, so a lot of questions. So we won't be able to. Yeah. Well, we won't be able to get to all the questions today. That's for sure.
Okay, well, that's okay. That's why they're on the forum.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll answer a lot of questions later on the forum, but I'll give you a bit of a taste. We've got from Michelle here, starting at the top from Michelle, and she was asking, we've been told by our Moodle partner that we'll need to wait for the first minor version release of 3.9 before we can be upgraded. Please, can you give us an indication of when that might be?
Yeah, absolutely. The next minor release is coming out this Monday. So not long now, Michelle, you'll be able to upgrade soon.
Brilliant. And Sergey was asking about, due to the starred new tab, teachers do not see the new activity introduced by administrator if they stay on starred tab. Is there a way to highlight these new activities introduced? Something like a recently added activities tab or a new star on the recommended tab when changing?
Yeah, not at this point in time. I think that's an interesting suggestion. Of course, the administrators can use the recommended tab. So if they introduce a new activity on the site, they can pop it on the recommended tab just by highlighting it there. But not within the tab itself. There's no new ways to highlight that activity at the moment.
Okay, I got one here from Paul Brand, and he was asking about with the feedback links, does a copy of the feedback data go to the institution the user came from, along with a copy of that data going to Moodle? As the feedback may be specific to how the institution set up their Moodle, it may assist the admin improving the local site.
Yeah, some really valid points there. At this point in time, it's our first iteration of this system. So no, at the moment, the feedback doesn't go back to the institute itself yet. It's certainly something that I think can be hugely valuable, and also makes it more worthwhile for institutions to turn this functionality on. So that's something that we will give a look. At the moment, I don't have the answer on that yet, though. But I understand that there's potentially a desire for this, for sure.
Okay, thanks, Sonda. There's quite a lot of questions here, but I'll sort of handpick a few. Adrian Rodriguez was asking about the MUA, and he's surprised about the major features that got rolling by the MUA. And he's sort of wondering if it'd be good if there were proposed ideas to get things done by Moodle HQ directly. Where, if there was, where could this be done? Bringing the idea only via the MUA in its way, but it is one way, but it's hard as there are many good proposals.
Yeah, of course. Well, the MUA is one way. Of course, we've got the Moodle tracker, where all the issues, anybody can go on there and create an issue and come up with a new proposal. And if you get more interest in your issue, more communication happening around it, more debates, more votes for the issue, and it's well worked out, then of course it becomes more and more likely to get things in. You can also If it's a bigger piece of work, try and collaborate with a Moodle partner, or if you've got Moodle developers at your disposal, go ahead and try and give us a patch, because if there's a patch ready that we can look at, it's much more likely that we'll be able to include it as well, of course. So there's a few different things, yeah.
Okay, well, I think I'll leave it there. There is a whole bunch of questions on the forum, and I'll leave you to answer them, or someone from Moodle HQ will answer them at a later time. We'll take a break now, and we'll be back with another session very soon. So thanks very much.
All right, thanks, Chris, and thanks everyone for listening.
Thanks, Sondar.
Bye.